Welcome to Bookmas Day 10. So we're doing something a little different. Obviously, we look kind of crazy. We are in the car having ice cream, and we wanted to just kind of reflect with you guys. There are just so many books that we've read in 2024 that we want to talk to you guys about. Obviously, if you've been watching our channel this entire time, a lot of the books that we're going to say have been talked about at some point in the past, but we wanted to just give like our top books of 2024, a little recommendation video or just a little reflection. But that's what we're gonna be talking about. So welcome to the video, welcome to Bookmas Day 10. These aren't gonna be in order by any means. I don't know, it's just like off of like memory. So we're just gonna like rattle off what we think. Very first book that I want to talk about is probably gonna be Throne of the Fallen.
I was gonna say that.
Throne of the Fallen by Carrie Maniscalco, and the Kingdom of the Wicked series, and Throne of Secrets because that came out this year as well. Princes of Sin / Kingdom of the Wicked have meant a lot to us. We've talked about it all the time, so I'm only gonna be brief, but I just feel like it ignited not only a passion for reading romantasy, but also just talking about books in general, because we have been talking about books a lot more often, not just between like Sam and I, because we've always talked about books, but with others. Recommending Throne of the Fallen has been like one of the beginning things that we've done. If you haven't heard about Throne of the Fallen, somehow you just made it onto my channel, you haven't heard me give this spiel about 8 billion trillion times. Basically, you're following Princes of Sin in the Kingdom of the Wicked series. It's the first technically, and then we go on to Princes of Sin, which is like Throne of Fallen, Throne of Secrets, but you're following Princes of Sin and their love interests in different books. Greed, envy, wrath, stuff like that. But the Kingdom of the Wicked trilogy is only about Wrath and his love interest. More to come, but I wanted to highlight those because those have been a really key point. Your turn.
You took all my points.
No, your next book.
Oh, I did not come prepared for this.
But I did bring a little listy-loo cheat sheet. The next thing I have on here was the perks of being a wallflower that I wanted to talk about. It's like an honorable mention. I don't necessarily consider that book like one of my favorites, but I do think that it is a book that I've thought about a lot since.
I'm so glad we decided to read that, because like we didn't read that in school, but like some other schools did, but we didn't. And like that's a book that I just think it should be read. And like, would I go back and read it again? I don't know, but like I was like, wow, I'm glad we decided to read that for the channel, because that's honestly something that I like love about having the channel, because it pushed us to read stuff that like I would have never picked that book up on my own.
Never. Yeah, we read that book because of, I can't remember her name. Kara Girl. Oh. Man, I kept thinking Carrie. That's Throne of Secrets. Kara Girl is my favorite subscriber, and she actually had recommended / requested doing a movie, like comparing books to movies, and I just knew off the top of my head that that book had a movie and that had been really popular. I never actually watched it. We would have never read that book or watched the movie if it weren't for her requesting that. So if you don't know what that book is about, you're following Charlie, who is a high schooler. He gets bullied and he's a wallflower, so like he's kind of antisocial, doesn't really know how to interact with others, and isn't very popular, and he just has some stuff going on like mentally and is trying to deal with all the bad things that happen in high school. But you're just seeing him get through it and find friends and have like that found family and have feelings of love and all this kind of stuff, and go through, I don't know, like the ups and downs of life. But just the way that the book was done, I just thought that it was done so well. And then like the talks of his mental health and everything like that, I just thought it was so tasteful, because I feel like it's really easy for mental health to get where it just seems like drama or like a television show or something like that, and not raw and real. And his emotions, he just felt like such a real person. I don't even know if the book is like based off anything real or not. I don't think I ever looked into it, but character Charlie just felt so real to me, that he was genuinely a person somewhere that was upset and like going through all these hard things. When he was getting bullied, I felt like I was watching someone in school get bullied. Like it felt that real to me.
One that we read recently, which we're still in the middle of the series, was the 13 series. That first book took us by such a storm, because I don't think we really had any like real or at least I didn't have any real expectations for that book. I had
low expectations
and
for that
like
book.
I really didn't know much of what it was going to be about. I kind of just like only knew it was on the back of the book and like didn't really know anything else about it. But wow, that book had us sucked in. We finished that book I think within 2 days, and it's a big book.
It's a big book. The other thing I want to point out about it is it had way more emotional depth than I thought it was going to.
Yeah, that took me by surprise.
I had it in my mind because it's high schoolers and because it's talking about like a sporty kind of romance. I just had in my mind that it was either going to be a little cringy or a little YA feeling. I thought that it was going to be brought down in terms of like the reading level. There was so much,
way more depth than I was expecting.
Yeah, way more depth, way more trauma. And again, it was done, in my opinion, very well. I felt like the things that were happening to the characters were things that unfortunately happen all the time to people, and that it wasn't like overly played out. I mean, there were some like big drama moments that I definitely were like, whoa, that's a crazy thing to happen, but nothing was too
out there, and it all just felt like it felt like it could be like a real person like going through this.
Next one I had Just for the Summer. This is by Abby Jimenez.
That was a good one.
Which I also want to try to remember to say the authors. I don't remember the author for Wallflower, but that's super popular. You'll be able to find it. Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. We read that book and again had super low expectations of it. I really did not think that I was gonna like it.
Put it off because I think we were reading like a romance like thing. I think we saved that or did we do it first because we didn't think it was gonna be that good.
I think it was first because we didn't think it was gonna be good. We did it for the romance video on my channel, like only reading romance. We didn't have any high expectations for it. We were just trying out that author. I thought that it was gonna be a little funny because we were jumping into the series and that was the third book in that series. You don't have to read it in order, but I just thought that was gonna kind of cause a problem. But it was so good. I mean, looking back, do I think it was like anything crazy in terms of like the complexity, this crazy version of a romance I've never heard before? No, but the kind of writing that Abby Jimenez has, it's very easy to get swept up in the romance and
it felt like a simple romance, but like the way she made the characters like interact and everything like really like sucked us in.
It felt like it would be a good movie.
Yeah.
That definitely pushed us in the direction of reading just regular romance. We started that video just trying romance because before then we had only really been doing romance that we saw in like YA stories or romance that was in fantasy. We hadn't really given just regular romance a real like shot because it was earlier on the channel. Also, if you hear me kind of chattering, it's because I'm cold. The next thing I have on here is technically the second in a series, but I put it as what I want to talk about because the first book we didn't get the first book the best shot. And that is Daisy Hates by Jessa Hastings. The first book was really hard for us to get through. That's the Magnolia Park side of things.
Specifically me.
Yeah, Sam had a really hard time. I found it like mildly entertaining, so it was easier for me, but we literally just had like 5 minutes where we were just hiding because the person next to us had like a remote start or something like that, and so the car just spontaneously turned on and we're just waiting for them to proceed to their freaking car. Anyways, we started talking about Daisy Hates.
Oh yeah,
that's what we're talking about. Daisy Hates again is the second book in the Magnolia universe. First book was Magnolia Parks and we did not love it that much. Sam specifically rated it a 2.
I was just hard for me with all like there's a lot of fashion jargon in there and I had a hard time with it, to be honest.
Yeah.
And the toxicness of the romance was a lot taken initially.
Yeah, I found it not relatable in the sense that they're like bajillionaires and like I don't relate to that at all. But the toxic romance, I've had my fair share of toxic relationships, and so I feel like in that aspect I wasn't as immediately turned off as Sam because she hasn't had any, so she didn't like relate to some of the things that were going on as I did. But Daisy Hates, specifically the second book, we loved. I feel like I blew through that book so fast I couldn't put it down. By that point I was used to the writing style. I was used to all of the
some of the characters were now familiar and it was easier to like fall into the world.
Yeah, I was prepared for all the fashion talk, the high society talk, so it wasn't as unrelatable or surprising or whatever or boring, and just overall the drama of it. Next I have Ninth House on here. Again, this is not in order. I have Ninth House on here because I feel like it really brought us back to an academic side of things. We both haven't been in school for a little bit, and so I feel like those parts of my brain haven't been used in a while, especially to like a higher capacity, because even when I was taking college classes and stuff like that, I wasn't doing anything too difficult. It was a lot of like more basic courses, and so even then I feel like I wasn't really using it. But in high school we both were in honors and AP level classes. Having that part of my brain scratched was really, really nice. Refreshing, as weird as that sounds. Being like having that like academic background and that getting brought back in like a fun fantasy was really nice. Other than that, I love the writing style of it. I love subtle, beautiful writing. I hate when it's thrown in your face.
They're
trying too hard.
So I feel like we see a lot of that in romance sometimes.
Yes,
where
all of a sudden they have this inner monologue that they just like, they're so profound, but the character is not profound in themselves, and so it just doesn't make any sense. They're like a super base level character, and then all of a sudden they have this really profound thought, and then they're back to being base level again.
Exactly.
Whereas Ninth House wasn't like that. It felt like the characters were more real, and their struggles were more authentic, and the things that they were going through, I felt like I could connect to them more. The book is following a troubled teen that has a very bad incident happen to her, and then she is approached by someone that works for Yale, and she's given this amazing opportunity to go to Yale, start over. All she has to do is be kind of like the referee of sorts for their like secret societies. That's what the book is about. But that girl, that troubled girl, her name's Alex. Her like troubled past, I don't relate to like the specifics of what she was having happen to her, but just having that feeling of where you don't believe that you belong. throughout the entire thing, she just kept feeling like she was out of place. Like, it didn't make sense. Like, she was around a bunch of people that she couldn't relate to and stuff like that, which I resonated a lot with. Being the only one that didn't have like a lot of money in like a rich school, that kind of background. I don't know what that's called. Where imposter syndrome, I think is what it's called.
That sounds right.
Where you just keep feeling like
you're not supposed to.
I shouldn't be here. This isn't meant for me. Like, there's no way I'm supposed to be with these people. Like, that's how she kept explaining her situation, and I felt a lot of that. So I just felt like that was really good. And also just the dark academic setting, not even just because of the academic side specifically, but just the coziness of it. I mean, like the feeling that I was in like a library the entire time.
It did kind of feel like that.
The setting, the vibes, it kind of gave like almost like Gilmore Girls a little bit, where
it was kind of
like you're reading like a big book in the corner of a library, and it's like fall. Like, that's how the entire book felt.
Fall book.
So having that feeling, it was very like atmospheric, which we haven't read too many atmospheric reads.
No, so it was a good change, honestly.
Yeah. Next, the rest of these, I mean, I do feel strongly about, but they're definitely less than the ones that we've just talked about. On here, I have Red Queen, Belladonna, Assistant to the Villain, and the From Blood and Ash series.
I feel like Assistant to the Villain was definitely a very good change for us, because we never had read like a comedic fantasy before like that. Yeah. And I think they did it very well, because they also had notes of like serious like topics in there. That was definitely a nice change that we weren't expecting at all from that book.
Yeah, it definitely gave like sitcom vibes. Yeah. Where you're out loud cracking up, and there's a lot of comedic breaks, you know, like the tension was getting broken up. I feel like isn't common in fantasy. I feel like sometimes, well, in books in general, and then fantasy specifically, there can be so much tension, like the war or the romance
or just building.
Yeah, that you're like stressed the entire time. And then I feel like on the opposite end of it, when we're reading books that aren't filled with that much tension, I'm getting bored, and it's more atmospheric. I mean, we've read books that it's like they're more like whimsical or whatever, and we're just sitting there like, oh my gosh, when is this gonna end? Because it feels, I'm reading like the monologue of the background setting, like that's how it feels. But Assistant to the Villain, that's by Hannah Nicole Mayer. It just felt like the right mashup. That's what I'm trying to say. Having fantasy, having tension, having like romance kind of building, those comedic breaks in there while still talking about very messed up things and very evil things and trauma and betrayal and all of that. But I didn't end that book feeling heavy, which is very rare. I feel like when we finish books or are going through books, especially me having such outward reactions or like true emotions as if it's happening to me live, that I'll leave a book feeling like it weighed on me, and either I'll be really sad or I'll just keep bringing it up. Having a book where I got to feel my whole rush of emotions and the roller coaster and everything like that, but then being able to shut it and feel like it was done. There are certain books that have brought up similar topics where it has wrecked me.
I was just about to say emotionally wrecking. Like, it didn't do that.
It wasn't like that, which was really refreshing. I mean, if you're in the mood for an emotional wreck,
get it.
Go into those books. We have those moments. If you want to cry your eyes out, you could read books like You've Reached Sam, which was really sad. I mean, there's a bajillion sad books, but I just wasn't in the mindset of that. I didn't want that. We chose to read that book because we thought it was going to be quick, but it was really nice to have a book that I don't feel like took a little piece of me and broke it up into a million pieces. And then From Blood and Ash, I wanted to briefly touch on it, even though we have completely
disengaged from the series.
Left that series behind. We are definitely gonna like go back into it at some point because I do really enjoy that series. It's technically two that get like intermingled. We read that book right after Throne of the Fallen. It was in like the same burst. We were dog sitting at the time, and those are the two books that we had with us. And Blood and Ash was definitely another one of those books that we were blown away, especially that early on in our reading journey in terms of romantasy. We didn't have a lot to compare it to, and I just felt like I was so taken aback. Not to say that I don't still feel like it's good. I think our taste has changed a little bit. It's just dense. It's one of those books. It's long. There's a lot of details.
A lot of plot.
I feel like it's easy to get lost. I feel like it's easy to start forgetting key points, especially now that there's two different series going on. It's the same world, but two completely different timelines. It's also a book that is formatted kind of funny. Words are small. Margins are even smaller. Book is huge. I always talk about Throne of the Fallen, but From Blood and Ash is definitely part of our like romantasy journey. Deciding to take on From Blood and Ash because that's an 11 book, roughly 11. I can't remember the exact number. I'm someone who before this channel, because I've made jokes before. We are in the middle of 30 freaking series. But before this channel, I was anti-series.
She said she would not start one, so starting that one at all
was monumental.
Yes, that was a big deal.
Has definitely pushed us towards, pushed me specifically in towards like being okay with series. I mean, now we've kind of gone overboard. We need to tone it back down. But I was adamantly against it. That's why I didn't want to touch fantasy in general, because we were, before the channel, like the beginning of our relationship, we were only reading YA because I didn't want to get into any series.
She was so anti-series, guys. You don't even understand.
No, adamant. Like, she was
adamant.
like...
She was like, I will not touch a series.
Yeah. Because
so it was hard for us to even, like, choose books at all.
And that has changed.
I was a series girly.
Yeah, Sam was always a series girly, and I was holding her back.
No.
But that's okay, because here we are, 30 series later. So the battery about to die. We switched the battery, and Sam realizes that something was covering her face the entire time from the light, and that is why she looked funky. So that's great. The video is literally about to be over, but that's awesome. So I have no idea how many books we just rattled off to you, but I want to say that in the new year, I definitely want to prioritize, one, getting through all those series that we're talking about, because girl, 30 plus, that's insane. I definitely want to read more books that make me feel something other than like the giggles, because I love that. And obviously I still will always view books as like an escape.
You want to be emotionally wrecked.
Yeah, they're not even just sad, but just wow, that writing was beautiful, or wow, I'm gonna think about that all day long, or even if it's just like a really good plot twist, and so I'm just like shocked that I didn't see it coming, because I'm pretty good at guessing plots.
She's very good at guessing plots. She can guess it from the beginning of the book, and there will be like not barely the smallest hint, and she'll like write it in her notes on her phone. She's like, okay, I have my hint, and we get to it like later down the line, and I'm like, how did you guess that from like way back when? I
just want to look at books a little differently rather than seeing it as either something to check off a list, getting too focused on the TBR. I really just want to focus on finding a book that I want to highlight the crap out of. I want to add a little bit more depth into our reading journey.
I feel like we should do like a quarterly review of like things that we want.
A quarterly check-in.
Yeah, things we want to like add into the next quarter.
Now we're video planning. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you so much. And